The church was full. The groom was waiting. But the bride had disappeared. The wedding of Blessing and Toby was supposed to be one of the most talked about weddings among their church members in Lagos. But on the morning of the ceremony, Blessing made a decision that shocked everyone. The day Blessing was supposed to marry Toby was meant to be one of the happiest days of her life. Friends, family members, and church members had gathered from different parts of Lagos to witness the wedding. The church was beautifully decorated. Flowers lined the aisle, soft music played from the choir stand, and at the altar stood the groom. Toby adjusted his expensive suit and smiled confidently as he greeted the guests. One of his friends laughed beside him. "After today, you are no longer a free man." Toby chuckled. "I'm ready." But as the minutes passed, something unusual began to happen. The ceremony did not start. Guests began looking toward the entrance of the church. The bride had not arrived. At first, people assumed there was a small delay. But 10 minutes passed, then 15. Soon whispers began spreading across the room. "Why is the bride taking so long?" someone asked quietly. At the altar, Toby turned to his best man. "Go and check the bridal room." The man nodded and hurried away. Everyone waited. A few minutes later, he returned, but the look on his face immediately caught Toby's attention. "She's not in the bridal room," he said quietly. Toby frowned. "What do you mean she's not there? I checked everywhere." The whispers inside the church grew louder. Then a voice from the back said, "The bride is missing." Within seconds, the words spread across the room. "The bride is missing." Toby stood frozen at the altar, his eyes fixed on the entrance, waiting, hoping. But the doors never opened. Because at that moment, Blessing was already far away from the church. Long before the wedding day that shocked everyone, Blessing was known as a hard-working young woman with big dreams. Life had never been easy for her. During her university years, she often struggled to pay for textbooks and spent many nights studying while others slept. But she never gave up. By the time she graduated, Blessing had already learned something important about herself. No matter the challenge, she knew how to keep moving forward. After graduation, Blessing completed her NYSC service year in another state. The experience changed her. For the first time, she lived far away from home, met new people, and learned how to adapt to different situations. More importantly, it helped her see the future she wanted for herself, a life where she worked hard and built her own success. When her service year ended, Blessing returned home to Lagos. Her parents welcomed her warmly, but very quickly, they began asking the same question again and again. "What is your plan now?" Blessing already had an answer. "I want to work," she told them one evening. "I want to start building my career." Her mother nodded slowly. "That's good. But jobs are not easy to find these days." Blessing smiled confidently. "I know, but I will try." Among everyone in the house, there was one person who always believed in her the most, her younger brother. One afternoon, her younger brother found her sitting at the dining table with several papers spread in front of her. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Job applications," Blessing replied. He looked impressed. "You really don't give up, do you?" Blessing laughed softly. "If you want something in life, you have to work for it." Her brother nodded. "I know you will succeed." His confidence made her smile. But while Blessing focused on building her future, her parents were thinking about something else. To them, success meant security, and the quickest way to achieve that was marriage. Blessing didn't know it yet, but the life she was planning for herself was not the life her parents had already begun planning for her. Not long after Blessing returned home from NYSC, something unexpected happened. Her parents met a man named Toby Adeyemi. In their area, the Adeyemi family was known for their wealth. Toby's father owned several businesses in Lagos, and the family lived a comfortable life many people admired. Toby himself was already running one of the family businesses. He drove expensive cars, dressed well, and moved among people who had money and influence. To many parents, a man like that was the kind of husband every daughter should marry. The connection between the two families happened through church. One Sunday afternoon after the service, Blessing's mother had a conversation with Mrs. Adeyemi, Toby's mother. They spoke casually at first. Then the discussion turned to their children. "You said your daughter just returned from NYSC," Mrs. Adeyemi asked proudly. "Yes," Blessing's mother replied proudly. "She finished recently." Mrs. Adeyemi nodded thoughtfully. "That's good," she said. "My son is also ready to settle down." The conversation ended there, but that small moment planted an idea in Blessing's parents' minds. A few days later, they brought the topic to Blessing. Her father spoke first. "There is someone we want you to meet." Blessing looked up from the paper she was reading. "Who?" "A young man named Toby," her mother said. "His family is well respected." Blessing frowned slightly. "What kind of meeting is this?" Her father answered calmly. "A marriage introduction." The words caught her by surprise. "Marriage?" she repeated. Her mother nodded. "He's a successful man, Blessing. This kind of opportunity may never come again." Blessing shook her head slowly. "I just returned home. I want to focus on finding work first." But her parents were already convinced. To them, Toby was everything they wanted for their daughter. Successful, connected, wealthy. The more they spoke about him, the more excited they became. "This opportunity may never come again," her mother said firmly. But Blessing was not convinced. And for the first time since returning home, she realized her future might not be entirely in her own hands. That night, the house was quiet. Blessing sat in the living room replaying the conversation with her parents in her mind. Marriage, to a man she had never even met. Just then, her younger brother walked in. "You've been sitting here for a long time. What happened?" Blessing sighed. "Mom and Dad want me to marry someone." His frown deepened. "Already?" She nodded. "They say he's rich." He pulled a chair and sat opposite her. "And what do you think?" Blessing hesitated. "I don't even know him." He shook his head. "That's not a good reason to marry someone." "But you know how our parents think," she replied quietly. He nodded. "Yes, I know." For a moment, the room was quiet. Then he said gently, "Sister, if you are not happy, you shouldn't do it." Blessing gave a tired smile. "I wish it was that simple." Over the next few days, the conversation continued in the house. Each time Blessing resisted, her parents repeated the same thing. "Toby is a good man. His family is wealthy. This marriage will secure your future." Slowly, the pressure wore her down. Eventually, Blessing stopped arguing. Not because she had changed her mind, but because she felt she had no choice. And in the end, she reluctantly agreed to the engagement. Before the engagement was finalized, Blessing's parents arranged for her to meet Toby. "It's only proper that you both talk," her mother said. Blessing agreed, though her heart was not fully in it. A few days later, they met at a quiet restaurant in Lagos. Toby arrived in an expensive car, carrying the confidence of someone used to attention. Blessing greeted him politely. "Good afternoon." "Nice to finally meet you," Toby replied. At first, their conversation was normal. They spoke about school, her NYSC year, and life in the city. But as they talked, Blessing noticed something about him. Toby enjoyed talking about himself, his business, his money, his lifestyle. "Running my company isn't easy," he said proudly, "but success comes to people who know how to win." Blessing nodded politely and mostly listened. When the meeting ended, Toby drove her home. Her parents were already waiting when she got home. "So, how did it go?" her mother asked. Blessing hesitated. "He seems confident," she said. To her parents, that sounded like good news. Within weeks, both families started discussing the engagement. Blessing still had doubts, but the pressure around her was strong. Soon, the engagement was arranged. At first, everything seemed fine. But as Blessing spent more time with Toby, she began to see another side of him. He was proud, sometimes too proud. One evening, they attended a small gathering with some of his friends. While they were talking, Toby suddenly laughed. "Blessing is still learning how to behave in places like this," he said. Some of his friends laughed. Blessing forced a smile, but she felt embarrassed. Later, she asked him quietly, "Why would you say that in front of your friends?" Toby shrugged. "It was just a joke." "It didn't feel like one," she replied. But Toby had already moved on to another conversation. As time passed, Blessing noticed a pattern. Whenever he was annoyed, he spoke harshly. Sometimes he ignored her opinions. Other times, he acted as if she should be grateful to be with him. Slowly, Blessing began to feel uncomfortable around him. Eventually, she decided to speak to her parents. One evening, after dinner, she sat with them in the living room. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. Her parents looked at her. "What is it?" Blessing hesitated. "Toby doesn't treat me well." Her father frowned. "What do you mean?" "He insults me sometimes, even in public." Her mother sighed softly. "Blessing, men behave like that sometimes." "But it makes me uncomfortable," Blessing said. Her father shook his head. "You are focusing on small things." Then her mother added quietly, "Marriage requires patience." Blessing sat silently. For the first time since meeting Toby, she began to wonder if she was making a mistake. As the wedding plans continued, everyone around Blessing seemed excited. Her parents were happy. Relatives were already talking about the wedding. But inside, Blessing felt uneasy. Then one day, something happened that made her doubts even stronger. Toby left his phone on the table while he stepped outside to take a call. A message appeared on the screen. "I miss you. When will I see you again?" Blessing froze. The message was not from her. She hesitated, but when she looked at the phone, more messages appeared. Pictures, conversations, promises. It was clear. Toby was seeing another woman. When he returned, Blessing was still holding the phone. "Toby," she said quietly. "What is it?" She showed him the screen. "What is this?" Toby frowned slightly. "You shouldn't be checking my phone." Blessing stared at him. "That's your response?" "You're overreacting," he said calmly. "You are cheating on me," Blessing replied. "It's nothing serious," Toby said calmly. "After we marry, things will change." Blessing could hardly believe what she was hearing. That night, she could not sleep. The next day, she went to speak with Toby's mother. Maybe she would understand. She explained everything. "I saw the messages. Toby is seeing someone else." Mrs. Adeyemi listened quietly. Then she sighed. "My dear, men behave like that sometimes." Blessing looked shocked. "But we are engaged." Mrs. Adeyemi nodded calmly. "Don't worry, my son will change after marriage." Blessing said nothing. She thanked her politely and left the house. But as she walked away, she felt completely alone. As the wedding date drew closer, Blessing felt something inside her slowly changing. The excitement everyone around her felt was something she could no longer share. Every day, there were new wedding discussions. Her mother talked about clothes, her father talked about guests, relatives called to congratulate the family. But inside, Blessing felt tired, emotionally tired. The more she thought about the future waiting for her, the heavier her heart became. Some nights, she lay awake for hours staring at the ceiling, her mind filled with the same question again and again. Is this really the life I want? One evening, her younger brother found her sitting quietly outside the house. She had been there for a long time. "You look troubled," he said gently. Blessing forced a small smile. "I'm just thinking." He sat beside her. "About the wedding?" Blessing didn't answer, but the silence said enough. Her brother looked at her carefully. "You don't have to do this." Blessing sighed. "You know it's not that simple. Our parents won't listen." Her brother shook his head. "They should listen." Blessing looked down at her hands. "I've tried."
As she sat there, another memory returned to her mind. Months earlier, during her NYSC year, she had become close friends with a woman named Cynthia. Cynthia had called her with an opportunity. "My company is looking for someone," Cynthia had said over the phone. "You should come to Port Harcourt. I can help you get the job." At the time, Blessing had been excited. She told her parents about the opportunity, but the response had been immediate. "No," her father said firmly. "You cannot move to another city now." Her mother agreed. "You need to focus on your marriage plans." And just like that, the opportunity disappeared. Blessing pushed the idea out of her mind until now. That night, she returned to her room and sat quietly on the bed. The house was silent. Her parents had already gone to sleep, but her mind refused to rest. For the first time since the engagement began, she allowed herself to think about something she had been avoiding. What if she didn't go through with the wedding? What if she simply left? The thought scared her. Running away from a wedding would bring shame to her family. People would talk. Rumors would spread. But another thought quickly followed. What if staying was worse? Blessing slowly closed her eyes, and for the first time since the engagement began, she began to imagine a life where she chose her own future. The morning of the wedding finally arrived. The church was already full of activity. Decorators moved around, making final adjustments, flowers lined the aisle, and soft music played from the speakers. Outside the church hall, guests arrived one after another, dressed in colorful outfits and cheerful smiles. Everyone seemed excited. Everyone believed they were about to witness a beautiful wedding. Inside the church hall, Toby stood near the altar speaking with a few friends. He looked confident, greeting people who came to congratulate him. Meanwhile, in the bridal room, Blessing sat quietly in front of the mirror. Her white wedding dress fitted perfectly. Her makeup was done, her hair was carefully arranged. From the outside, she looked like the perfect bride. But inside, her heart was heavy. A bridesmaid walked into the room and smiled. "You look beautiful." Blessing forced a small smile. "Thank you." The bridesmaid adjusted the veil slightly. "Everyone is waiting. The ceremony will start soon." When the room became quiet again, Blessing slowly turned toward the mirror. For a long moment, she simply stared at her reflection. She tried to imagine walking down the aisle, standing beside Toby, smiling for the guests, pretending everything was fine. But the thought made her chest tighten. Deep inside, she already knew the truth. If she walked down that aisle, she would be walking into a life she did not want, a life where her voice did not matter, a life where her happiness came second to everyone else's expectations. Blessing lowered her eyes. Her mind returned to everything that had happened in the past months. Toby's insults, the cheating, her parents ignoring her concerns, the opportunity she had once been offered in another city. Slowly, she stood up from the chair. Her hands trembled slightly, but her decision was already made. Blessing walked to the door of the bridal room and looked down the quiet hallway. No one was there.
From the distance, she could hear the voices of guests inside the church, waiting, expecting the bride to appear. Blessing took a deep breath. Then she quietly removed her veil. She placed it gently on the table. Without making a sound, she opened the back door of the building and stepped outside. The sunlight touched her face as she walked quickly toward the gate. Within minutes, she was gone. And inside the church, no one knew the bride had already left. And just like that, the bride was gone. But where did Blessing go? And did she just destroy her future or save her life? Watch part 2 to see what happened after Blessing disappeared. Thanks for watching. Kindly subscribe, like, and share.